Thanks for staying with us on Breakfast Central. Nigeria's political landscape is heating up as four major opposition figures, such as Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president, Mr. Peter Gregory Obi, a former governor, and also Engineer Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, a former governor as well, and Governor Seyi Makinde prepared to meet in Abuja on August 18 under the G100 coalition. This summit, described as a doctrine of necessary democratic opposition, aims to forge unity and present a credible alternative to President Bola Tinubu and the ruling APC ahead of the 2027 elections.
With past attempts at opposition alliances often collapsing under the weight of personal ambition, many believe this meeting could either mark a turning point for Nigeria's democracy or be just another missed opportunity. Joining us to look at this thoroughly is Public Affairs Analyst Dayo Akintobi. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
My pleasure.
Welcome.
Always. Good morning, Nigeria.
So, DONDO, I would like to call it that, Doctrine of Necessary Democratic Opposition. Is this just another failed attempt at creating another ADC, or do you see the light at the end of the tunnel with this G100?
Well, I think it's a good start because essentially what it is bringing all the players to the table to come and start talking about possibilities.
Again?
Well, yes, but there might be a difference to it this time. I mean, we've done this in the past and several times it collapsed under its own weight. But remember, the APC did something similar and they succeeded because APC was about a merger of various interests and they were able to do it in the correct way that led to success. So it's not an impossibility, but it's an uphill battle, primarily because there are very big egos involved here and a lot of personal ambition. So this will sink or swim on who is willing to put country first and subjugate ego. Now, I think this G100, at least the August 18 meeting, is not about coming out with one candidate on that day and say, okay, this is the opposition's singular candidate. I think it's about bringing all the parties to the table to open discussions about possibilities. And I think that's the one thing that gives it the possibilities to succeed, is if on that day, for example, August 18, we see Atiku in the room, we see Obi in the room, we see Makinde in the room, we see Rotimi Amaechi, Kwankwaso, we see Donald Duke, we see Adebayo Adewale, all of them at the table.
Omoyele Sowore.
Sure, as well.
I don't think it's going to be there.
The first thing to do is to measure the potential for success is who is there. And who, because what it means, the fact that they attended to begin with, sends a signal that they're open to discussion. That each and every one of them at that point has said, look, what the country needs is more important at this point. So I'm open for them to come there. It means they're open to discussions.
But my question is, how is this different from what they did with the ADC? Because that was the ultimate goal. They believed that the country needed an alternative and that the opposition needed to come together. But they couldn't successfully do it. Everybody's individual interest seemed to surmount the country's perceived need. So how is this different from what they tried with the ADC? Because
with the ADC, it required you to join that party. It required you to collapse your structure into the ADC. What the G100 is trying to do here is not saying that they want to merge parties. No, what they're looking for is a consensus candidate that everybody else can rally behind and support while you still maintain your own individual identity, your own individual party. Now, for this to happen, it's going to take a very influential broker, which is what the G100 is trying to be. Because Atiku, for example, this is going to be his 6th time running. It's a lifetime ambition. For him to be able to agree to step it down and support any of the other people, it's going to take a major outpouring. It's going to take a major sway and persuasion from influential people. I would say probably past presidents, past military people. I'm talking about General Obasanjo, Goodluck Jonathan, elder statesmen like Emeka and Yaoku. I don't see any such person in the G100 now. That's what's worrisome, is that I don't think there's anyone who has the gravitas to be able to persuade any of those key players who all have outsized egos to be able to see that it's not about it's my turn. this time. It's not, it's my turn. It's what's best for Nigeria. That's the way forward.
We saw one of the conferences, many tagged it as Amala Conference, from Abuja to Ibadan. The crowd was humongous, huge. The PDP, led by Turaki, came together and said, listen, this is the future. The PDP also moved, of course, partnered with the ADC, and they also made the same statements that this is the future. But none of them materialized. Oliver's asked the question, is this a repetition of some sort? But I'm going to look at it from this aspect by asking you, in as much as they want to come together, doesn't this spell success for the incumbent? Because it shows that, of course, there's a form of uncertainty even amongst the parties individually. And now they have to come together to unite.
The incumbent doesn't need 50% to win. All the incumbent needs is a fragmented opposition, as we saw in 2023. I mean, look, the incumbent had 30-something odd percent.
Yeah.
Right? The others had 60-something odd percent, but split into so many different factions. Bottom line, each and every one of them knows the reality that they cannot win on their own. That's the truth. They know that they cannot win on their own. And if they insist on going for it on their own again, it's going to be a repeat of 2023.
But maybe to jump in again, what would be the ideal? Because I'm trying to dig deep into my mind, and I'm sure the viewers are also trying to do that. Maybe you'll be in a better space to help us understand this. What will be the ideal conversation when this meeting holds eventually? I know we're trying to jump the gun, but hey, by the way, August 18 is not far off. No. It's just Monday, next week, Monday.
Actually, exactly a week from today.
Yeah, a week from today, basically, because the elections are on the 15th, this Saturday. 17th, Sunday, Monday, 18th. So just next week, Monday. And if you look at it, will conversations go in a direction of, okay, if the SDP needs to collapse its support by, will it say it's directing, telling its members, everybody go for this candidate? Will the ADC say, okay, fine, even if we're going to collapse, you know, our goal, everybody in the ADC go for this, and it goes on like that? Is that what we're going to see? Are we also going to have maybe an internal agreement that should we get into power, we're going to make you the minister of this, you're going to be in charge of that? Will all those cards be on the table? You've been there. I mean, you've been into this political space. So you want to tell us?
Well, your initial idea about would they immediately begin to talk about who is stepping aside for who, and I think that's a recipe for failure. I think what needs to happen on August 18 is for all of them to, first of all, agree that what is required here is a united opposition. That's the only way we're going to change things. That as long as we don't unite as an opposition, we're giving the incumbent a runaway victory. That's the first thing. Now, a recipe for failure is to try and pick somebody that day. Is to try and say, you step down for this, you collapse your structure into the... All they need to do that day is to pick a committee, agree on the rules by which they will form this opposition or this coalition, and then give maybe a 3-month timeline and say, what matters most is that committee should come up with the methodology by which we will unite. If you try and achieve that objective that same day, there are too many various interests that are pulling. It's centrifugal. They're pulling, or is that centripetal? I can't remember.
Centripetal, yes.
Yeah, they're pulling from the center, pulling it apart. So that day is just all about commitment, agreeing on a unified way forward. Right?
Do they have time with INEC for that?
The election is not until next year. They have time. Because remember, this is not, they've already submitted the names of their candidates.
Exactly.
So this is just about rallying behind one.
Okay.
They are not collapsing any structures. They are not defecting to any parties. You can't do any of that anymore. The timelines are passed. So this is all about just unifying around a central theme. Look, voters are angry. There's a real golden opportunity here. Voters are angry, but they're also tired. They don't have the will and the energy anymore. So that's why you see voter apathy. Look, if this opposition coalition thing doesn't come together, you will see that the apathy in 2027 will even be worse than 2023. You'll see a lot less people coming out to vote because, I mean, yeah.
Your sports for choice.
People are angry about fuel, they're angry about the naira, they're angry about insecurity. So there's a golden opportunity here. But unless there's a real credible possibility that things will change, because people think their votes don't count. Why am I bothering to go? You know, it's already a done deal. The opposition is not offering a credible alternative. So we've got to have them unite around a common theme and offer the electorate something completely different, a different type of hope from all the
renewed hope,
the disappointments of the last 3.5 years.
Do you perhaps think that the opposition will be in some measure threatened by the idea of the G100? And I ask because when the ADC started coming together, what was meant to be the alternative, the coalition, the APC responded, and the APC said they're not threatened. They made jokes about the ADC, but many argued that initially they were threatened. It's why there were lots of stumbling blocks that many have even blamed the APC for. But from what you see, do you perhaps think that the APC will be threatened by the possibility of a formidable force being formed by the G100?
Anytime any element rears its ugly head against the incumbent, the reactions have been so virulent that it lets you think they feel threatened, even if they don't feel threatened. But they have a way of coming out with brickbats against any and everybody who dares to say, we are challenging you. So I would say that there might be a real concern that perhaps Nigerians are worried about, their performance in office, to where if they have a credible alternative, they might look in that direction. I think the incumbent would be right to be worried about that, whoever. So it's beneficial to the incumbent to keep the opposition divided. And that's why conspiracy theorists are saying, the implosion of the ADC, the mass exodus from the ADC to the NDC. That
the NDC now has its own challenges.
That all this is orchestrated by the incumbent, because the incumbent is one who has a vested interest in keeping the opposition fragmented. Right. And we continue to see each and every day. So it won't surprise me if a spanner is thrown in the works of the G100 in the coming days. But as long as they're focused, as long as they can get the key players to the table, let them just start talking.
Maybe on the day of their meeting, they will hear that they didn't get permits to gather people.
Their venue.
Their venue will be shut down. But beyond the G100 potential members and the opposition, the Nigerian people, what will the G100 need to do to convince the Nigerian people that they're serious? Because the ADC came with so much hope, and whatever was left of that hope, the NDC had a bit of that. But it would seem that many do not see the potential of a formidable opposition come 2027. So what will the G100 need to do to convince Nigerians that they are serious this time? Okay.
I mentioned it before that they need a broker. The G100 is trying to play the role of being a broker between all those outsized egos. So if the G100 can attract a respected elder statesman,
E.g.
I said it before, past president, past military. I can drop some names, President Obasanjo.
Exactly, what exactly?
Okay. Former President Obasanjo, IBB, President Jonathan, Emeka Anyauku, Abdul Salami, even, except for the controversy lately, some religious leaders, who hold moral sway.
Except minus the ones that have tried to put the Muslim-Christian divide.
You're talking about infidels now.
Yeah.
So sad.
Sad.
Yeah, very
really
sad.
sad.
Very sad. No, that's
really sad. Really sad.
Indictment.
I mean, G100. That's a conversation, but the look into the G100. I mean, looking at the names, one would beg to say it's not going to be possible.
Well, Salihu Lukman is a respected person, but he doesn't have money.
Okay.
He doesn't have governors in his fold.
Okay.
He doesn't have a structure. It's going to take that. I mean, you're going to have some governors. You're going to have some sitting governors backing your initiative.
But how many governors? The 32 governors are already with the APC.
It's okay.
So you have only just how many? Only 4?
You'll be surprised that this G100 can attract some opposition governors in terms of APC governors, whether on the surface or surreptitiously. Because remember, in every election there are moles. There are those both overt and covert moles.
So that's my question. How are we sure that all who will sit August 18, the moles are not just going to be there to just...
There will be moles in August 18. There will be those that are coming there to come and spy for the APC and, But I still feel that for the G100 to have come up with this initiative, they've discussed with all the key players already. they've spoken to both the presidential candidates and the party chairman of all the 6, and have at least got them listening. Not to say they've got them agreeing yet, but they've got them listening, which is a good start. And if they can get them all to come to that table on August 18th, I foresee that as long as they don't force the issue on that day, saying that, oh, we have to have one person today, so all of you choose one and everybody else step down, I think that's the quickest way to send everybody scurrying back to their power centers, is if they try and impose, which has been the trend in this current dispensation towards 2027, is this notion of imposition from the various parties in terms of candidates. So if they try to do that with the G100, it's the quickest way to collapse and implode the whole exercise. So I think dialogue is an opening point. Let's all agree and unify around a theme. Then we can begin to come up with a methodology. And I think the process itself, if it's allowed to play out, would throw up the ideal candidate that everybody will rally behind.
Okay. I would like to, I don't know if Joe wants to still talk about G100, because I want to segue to...
That's fine. Go ahead.
Brilliant. We're counting down the days to Osun. Osun's elections on Saturday. That's in 4 days.
Yes.
There's been a lot of drama going on in Osun.
Yes.
Some allegations of people who have been killed. The APC and Accord Party have alleged that numbers of their members have been killed. And it's so sad that in 2026, this is the kind of politics we are hearing, that people are coming out to say, they killed my party members, and we don't know that any arrests have been done or people have been caught. But as we count down to the elections, another thing that we've seen is the vote buying in some measure, or convincing. They say that, you know, they are empowering people, but slapping faces of your political parties on the bag of bread, on the pack of bread, on the bag of rice. That is what our politics has become. What are your thoughts for what we should expect come Saturday in Osun State? The
run-up to this particular election has been worrisome in terms of the degree of violence, mayhem, you know, killings, and, you know, and I tried to study it from a historical perspective, going back to at least when the current administration came into power. And what I see in Osun is that there are too many power centers all tussling. First of all, remember that the APC was the immediate past administration.
Absolutely.
They believe they lost unfairly. They've not sat idly by for the last 3.5 years. What they've done in those 3.5 years is continue to strengthen their structure. They've been building really hard because they feel that election got away from them unfairly, and they are pulling out all the stops to win that government house back. Now, let's remember that the governor himself, Adeleke, right?
Former PDP.
No, even before that, he became a senator under APC.
APC, yeah.
Then became a governor under PDP. Then went to Accord for his re-election. So he himself has got 3 different power centers, all fighting for dominance within his own entity. Because remember, each time he left each of those parties, some people followed him, some people stayed. When he went to Accord now, the people who were in Accord before he came are disgruntled that we've been working for this party for ages. You just came and hijacked the whole structure, brought your own people from PDP, putting them in all the key positions, promising them. So there's a lot of strife. There's a lot of internal tension, both within the governor's immediate family, and then the opposition of the APC, who believes they lost unfairly and will do anything to get back into that government house. So I think it is the pulling of all those elements, pulling apart, that is leading to all this tension. And like you say, in this day and age, it shouldn't be about violence. It shouldn't be about being able to buy votes for a mess of porridge. At this point, the electorate is sophisticated enough to be able to know.
Are they?
They are. Trust me, they are. Even the market women, even the illiterate, even the unschooled, the unlettered, they know well enough. But because of poverty, a bag of rice is attractive.
Weaponized.
Yeah, they're weaponizing poverty. But they already know that if I sell my vote for a 5,000 naira payoff, the next 4 years will be reflective of that payment I made. And I keep giving the example of a friend's driver who took his child to General Hospital and couldn't get drip. And and he's there complaining about, oh, the government is not there. And his boss says, how did you vote in the last election? I didn't vote. He said, so it's because you didn't vote that your daughter can't get drip. The driver couldn't see the connection between his voting and the dividends of democracy in education, in health, in infrastructure, in security, and things like that. But I think he's the exception, he's not the rule. I think by and large that we've done this thing so many times since 1999 that people have already learned the hard way that if we don't make the right choices at the ballot box, or if we stay away from the ballot box, it has a negative impact.
I really hope people have learned, because sometimes I don't feel like
we have a video. I mean, just like Oliver's mentioned, I don't know if our producers have that video up, of a lady who has taken it upon herself. We just showed the video. We're going to put it out there again. Sharing bags of gari and rice. There she is. Let's just watch. Okay, so that's the video. You need to show your card, card carrying members only, and you have 2 small size Ijebu gari. For some, they added beans.
We had someone from the Osun State government yesterday.
Yes.
He is with the APC.
Yes.
And we had someone as well from the Accord Party.
Yeah.
And I remember asking him if our politics should not have evolved beyond coercing or convincing people to vote for you, which in some measure can be interpreted as vote buying. He said it's not. That this is... It's
called grassroots politics.
That politics is grassroots. So they have to...
They have to give bread. They have to give bread. This year they're giving beans. So the bread you collected rhetoric. 4 years ago, you collected beans.
That's political rhetoric. The truth is, it's all about poverty. It's not that those people don't know any better. It's that they're hungry and they need food. And somebody's coming to offer free food. At this point in time in Nigeria of today, you will see queues. It doesn't matter what the price you have to pay. We need stomach infrastructure today. We need to feed. And that's what you saw in Nigeria.
And politicians have armed themselves with that knowledge so good.
Absolutely. It's weaponization of poverty. That's why I fear for the fact that will we ever escape poverty in this country? Because politicians recognize the fact that as long as they keep the people poor, they will always be able to manipulate us. That's the truth. You could see that in that video.
Quite sad. Let's still stick to Osun State. I mean, security. That has been a major concern, a major worry. We did see the IG of police engage in a quick swap, is what we'll call it, because we can't call it replacement, because we do hear that the former CP is still there maintaining his position, but not in charge of the elections. There's a new police officer, in quotes, a CP, that would be in charge of the elections. What do you make of that?
Well, see, the police is so critical to the outcome of any election. The 3 major institutions responsible for the outcome of any election, INEC, of course, security, apparatus, police, army, whoever, in civil defense, and then of course there's the judiciary, those 3. And they all have key roles to play. Now, for the police, it's before the election, during the election, and after the election, so their own role is very key. All the others is either before or after, but police is across all 3. And issues of voter suppression, voter intimidation, ballot box snatching, these are all things that are squarely in the lap of the police. Now, the previous commissioner of police did some things that antagonized the people, especially the administration in power, and they complained vociferously that this commissioner of police is not one we can trust to allow a free and fair election to happen. And the IG of police, in his wisdom, did a very smart thing, I would think. He didn't remove him, but he put somebody else in to run the election so that won't be a basis for litigation afterwards.
But do you think still having him around doesn't give him the impetus to wield power.
It may do informally, not officially, and so it's not litigatable.
Okay.
Yeah, because, he's not in charge officially of the election. So as long as they've sidelined him, you can't use it as a basis for election that the person in charge of security was biased or was partisan. So that was why I said it was very smart on the part of the IG, But security is key. People need to have confidence. Remember, there's already apathy. People already are fed up, they are tired, they are disgruntled. If there's now the threat of violence
And life.
and threat to human life, many more will not come out to vote. And already the numbers are abysmal as we speak. So it's very key to have, confidence in the security apparatus that we'll be safe if we come out to vote. The fact that we vote a certain way won't make us susceptible, to victimization and things like that.
All right. Osun State is, as we're counting down to the elections, there are about 14 candidates, all contending for that one seat. But the three prominent leads would be from the Accord Party, the APC, and the NDC, I believe. Yes, Najim Salam. ADC, rather. Thank you. So the question now is, as we're counting down with these three political parties, we've seen them fight a very fiery, feisty fight laced with, I wanted to say sprinkles of violence, but it's no longer sprinkles, a lot of violence. Is this a precursor to what we should expect come 2027 at the general elections?
Well, I would hope not. But the morning shows the day, So if we don't get Osun right, which is just a microcosm of the larger election of next year, if we don't get Osun right, how do we expect to get the national one right next year in terms of, at least security, free and fair elections, the ballots being open to where nobody is concerned. So it's a bit worrisome, that because on a national level, the competition is probably going to be fiercer. It's going to be more fierce than what we're seeing in Osun State. So if something as small as this is bringing so much rancor and divisiveness and fight, imagine it multiplied in multiples several times on a national scale. So let's learn lessons from Osun as it plays out. I'm hoping that the police and INEC have got their act together in such a way that, in spite of what we've seen in recent times, that the election will still play out peacefully, that the will of the people will prevail. That's the most important thing, that what the Osun people want should prevail, should be allowed to happen, and everybody should be safe and secure in their homes.
I just wanted to, let me take maybe 30 seconds very quick because we're out of time.
Okay.
What do you make of the NURTW? The body saddled with the responsibility of commuting or taking very important materials for the election day, moving it about. Just yesterday, they came out declaring support for the APC. They've not hidden their support for the incumbent, but yet they're still being used to move sensitive materials.
Yeah, I don't think that's appropriate. I think a professional logistics firm, which we have many of them in Nigeria, should have been awarded that contract, because if you have a partisan or party favorite agency being entrusted with such sensitive tasks, voting materials, that's the be-all and end-all of the election. So if you have it in the hands of somebody who's partisan, that's like having an INEC chairman that's partisan, or having an IGP of police who's partisan. Even just transporting electoral materials is sensitive enough to where you need somebody who is unbiased. You need a business, a company that's not affiliated and is doing it strictly on the merits for profit. And they will be efficient at it. They won't, ballot papers won't get lost. They won't arrive late. Things won't happen that give advantage to the person you've endorsed. So I don't think it's proper. Okay,
my final question, because we didn't have you at the time that this happened, was when the Osun account was frozen, and the EFCC, of course, did the freezing. The president then ordered the EFCC, directed the EFCC to unfreeze the account. What was your take on that?
Well, it was a comedy of errors, was the way I saw it. First of all, the EFCC probably could have exercised some restraint in terms of the timing so that it did not look like it was orchestrated by the administration, because the EFCC is supposed to be independent. But after the EFCC did it, the worst thing was for the president to come and openly reverse it, because it shows that the EFCC is not independent and the president can instruct. So after that first error, that own goal was committed. What I think should have been done, was the president should have picked up the phone. Not even him.
Deadly?
Not even him. His COS
or Bayo Onanuga or Bajabi Amila.
No. Those ones, the FCC chairman won't listen to those people. I mean,
Chief of Staff
or
Attorney General of the Federation
should have picked up a phone call and said, step this thing down, let's just go quietly away, unfreeze the thing quietly, let it go away, deal with this later. The president should not have got involved at all, because now he has telegraphed to all of us the fact that he can do and undo it.
So is it safe to say then that the president doesn't have good advisors? Because they should have been able to advise him against that move.
I'll ask the president to appoint you as one of his advisors. I know he'll do. I know
Won't it make it seem like the president isn't democratic enough? I mean, if that process, didn't he show that he was a Democrat, you know?
No, yeah, well, we're all Democrats. He's a Democrat, but you cannot, in a democracy, you should not compromise your own institutions that are supposed to be independent. AFCC is supposed to investigate on its own, and if they had already made that error, the president should have stayed aloof and maybe quietly whispered in somebody's ear to not publicly go ahead and undermine an institution that's independent.
We're completely out of time.
Yes.
But in 30 seconds, can you react to the cleric who made that statement? I don't think that it will be important. We can have this conversation without having your reaction. To those who are making divisive statements, they're saying Muslim tickets and, saying that, in a way, undermining Christians. What was your first reaction and how do you react to that?
That's a crying shame, really. And I think he should be either made to apologize, brought up on charges, something. And what I found most distressing was that there were officials in office who were there who were laughing. And I thought this was a slight on every Nigerian, of any faith, is the fact that someone could openly, publicly say something to the effect that I can't even repeat the word. It's too horrific.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It should be condemned.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for.
Always a delight to speak with you.
Yeah.
My pleasure always. Good morning.